all. This is Dr. Mobeen Sayed. Welcome to the cafe and let's have our discussions. So, what are we talking today? And here is Algebra Bean. Eid Mubarak. Thank you very much. Eid Mubarak to you as well. So, technically, the Eid continues for 2.5 days, I believe. So, today is Eid as well, and tomorrow, half day. Doug is saying that I'm struggling but surviving. Doug, I hope everything is okay. So, channel name says, does the vaccine say does the science say that these variants can be avoided, and are they as pathogenic as delta or the original? So variants would continue to come in, number one. Number two, this is an incorrect message that has been started. I actually know the person who started this. I think we all know, who said vaccines are causing selection pressure to generate more variants. Variants were being generated before. They will continue to generate. You would actually see this person who said this theory, he said vaccines would just cause the more variants, and the more variants there are, there's going to become more lethal and more dramatic and more of an issue. But if you see here, these variants so far are continuing to become less and less lethal. This is why the society is opening up. I went to Starbucks this morning. So Ramadan is done and I'm not fasting anymore. So I went to Starbucks this morning and everyone was sitting there and it was almost half full and people didn't have masks and they were talking and laughing and happy. And you won't see that if there was lethal variants going around. So a natural path for the virus is to continue to mutate, mostly towards becoming better for us if it wants to live in us. Then there are viruses like flu that even when living in us, they continue to drift and shift as well. Maybe we should do a lecture about what is shift and drift. So this is a natural process of the virus. And luckily, fortunately for us, so far, it is becoming more human friendly, less lethal to us. It is still lethal to many, but relevant to or compared to its cousins, previous cousins or parents or ancestors, it is doing better. So no, it was not the. So does the science say that these variants can be avoided? No. And are they as pathogenic as Delta or original? Ideally not, but the problem with the long COVID is still an issue. Okay, so Robin said, off topic, what did Mrs. Bean think of your photo shoot? So the last photo, she actually chose something that nobody else chose, and that was the last one. Let me see if I can bring it up. Where are my photos? One second. Um, okay, so I'm gonna share my screen and show you. This is drbean.com. Let me show you. How was I showing you? Let me bring it to this screen. Correct. So here there were these pictures, correct? And we had kind of passed on some of these. This is one which folks liked, and I'm going to use this in some way. Then this is also something that was liked. This is liked. This was liked. I think this was liked as well. And my wife liked this one. So I have used this as well. And I have used some of the others. I liked this and this, and I'm planning to use a cropped copy of either this one or this this one. So I'm going to crop it and then use this one for maybe YouTube and Facebook headers. So that's what happened. Thank you for asking, Robin. So guitar guitar dog beer says, I see mostly vaccinated people getting ill with Omicron in my practice, and there is a reason. Again, uh, that reason is this: we have a very large vaccinated group and we have a smaller unvaccinated group, and we are in the Omicron era anyways. So in the vaccinated group, there are those as well who were more prone to the vaccination, to the virus. So of course, in this bigger cohort, while even Omicron has become a little more escapable as well from the variants, it is going to, let's say if it takes up this part, let's say it takes up 20%, I'm just making up a number, and that would be somewhere over here. If it takes up 20% of this, that would be somewhere like this. So that is how these would look different. It's not that the variant itself has some propensity towards vaccinated. Even if we believed that the vaccines cause selection pressure and somehow help produce more variants, even then that would not explain why there will be more vaccinated folks getting infected in percentages compared to the other. Then there is another, and sorry, before I go there, one can do this mental exercise of saying if there was 0% unvaccinated and 100% vaccinated, where would you see the infections? All in the vaccinated. If 100% were unvaccinated and 0% vaccinated, where will you see the infections? All in unvaccinated. And as these proportions change, so will change the other one too. That was one. And then there was another point I was going to make about the. All right, it'll come back to me. So this is, Rima says, so handsome. Thank you very much. This is correct that the Omicron can escape the vaccines and antibodies better than its ancestors. Even the normal infection, natural infection, better than ancestors. But that's not because somehow vaccines did it. And again, this is not about pro-vaccine or anti-vaccine. This is about science. We should. It is actually interesting that there are so many folks who call me anti-vaccine, and because of this reason, the folks who have audited us on the website, they have stopped us from putting the doctor some videos there because we are not very pro-vaccine like folks. But anyways, I think that has become a general trend in this society, that whoever we don't agree with, we'll just call them the other side and say you're bad. This is a very good question. Rima says, does the data show that the frequency of lupus occurrence from or post-vaccinated and boosted? Rima, that's a very good question. I have actually never seen that, but the only reason it could be is because it is immune related, and if there is a dysregulation, that this could happen. I will have to research this. Hiris says, my daughter and some of her friends reported irregular heartbeats for several months after vaccine dose 2. Her EKG had showed PVCs and echo was normal. Very interesting. And remember, we had the patient Sean. I think now he has gotten somewhat of the heartbeat or irregular heartbeat under control after months and months. I think after a year, he still has it. His tinnitus is bad. Majority of the other are slowly coming under control. Um, there are many folks who have vaccine related or associated cardiac issues. Rima said, Rima says bastards. So you're talking about the auditors. Guitar Dog Bear says you're objective. That's why I'm here. Thank you. And the reason was very simple. I didn't want to become an anti vax or pro vax, even just to have a group that I can put in a corner and have an opposition. I wanted to be a medical teacher who teaches medicine. And for medicine, you have to look at the drug if you're teaching pharma and its pros and its cons and its side effects and the toxicities and the management of them. You can read any of the um, pharma books, and that's how they manage it. It's just become, as much as I'm very proud that general public had a chance to look deeper into medical sciences, in these processes, the weaknesses of those, the corruption of the studies or those things in the authorities. So they were exposed to the inside working of this whole system, and they saw so much rubbish going on. At the same time, there is also a downside, and that is that not everyone knows that the medicine is done this way, to say here is a benefit of something, here is a less benefit of something, toxicity is management. And so a few days ago, I did a video. What was that? Something I talked about the vaccine. Remember, there was a, was it Medicago? I talked about some vaccine, and under there was a comment that said, "Why don't you pick a side? Are you pro-vaccine or anti-vaccine?" And I was cracking up that it's not about a side. Correct. So some intentionally weak studies, some actually, yes, yes, agreed. Jay's videos, you're asking a question that if I answered that over here, this channel would start getting strikes as well. It is a good question. So Alexander says, anything new in terms of long COVID research seems to be a bit. There is, so I'm working with FLCCC, and Dr. Paul Marek is leading to create the protocol. The few things that are interesting. Number one, there's a study that talks about uh, myocarditis because of suprarenal dysfunction and the acetylcholine receptors. So that is interesting. Then there is a study about hyperbaric chambers and their advantage. That is also interesting. Then, so far, the evidence for the existing protocols and just sticking to one drug probably isn't entirely correct. And that is also interesting. Then we've talked about antibodies and idiotypical antibodies. There was a push to say that this must be mold related. I think that's not entirely accurate. And so that is interesting. So there are a bunch of things that we are actually researching, and you would see the results of those soon. Plus, you would see me presenting some of those studies out as well. Texas Meg says Zira. Zira is a part of our uh, cooking thing as well. So, Robin, what I'm saying is this: for every study, there are some who do not like it and they criticize it. For example, today it was surprising for me that this particular study or report that we looked at, the criticism contained misrepresentations which could very easily be verified, and even then the criticism stood. So I think on all sides this is happening. M, and look at that. I look at this comment. M. Gregory says there are so many sides and gray areas. Correct. I think the trust in medicine has taken a hit. Agreed. And not only that, tell me, how about mainstream media? How about these big platforms, the tech platforms? How about healthcare authorities? Even if these are not medical, for example, tech platforms or mainstream media, even they showed their colors, which were not entirely the best. So Rima says, what they've done to you is unconscionable and unethical and not based in science. I am sickened by them. Yes, that's how life is. Skyfrog says, is there such a thing as neutral vaccine? Neutral vaccine. Um, I haven't heard of that yet, but that's an interesting question. I do not know the answer to that, Skyfrog. Kelly says everyone seems to be out of themselves and their own opinion rather than searching for truth and caring for others. What I'm seeing is that folks are looking to verify what they think. And wherever they see something that strengthens their point, they take it. Wherever they see an argument that may be sane but able to provide the other side, they attack it. And when they attack it, then they forget that they themselves would need to be scientific as well. For example, the criticism that I shared with you, that was nothing but attacks on this study. But in their own attacks, they had left the science alone. And I think that something dawned on me today with that criticism, because I looked at the criticism, I went back to the study because I wanted to make sure I did not say something about the study that was wrong. So when they made um, those statements in writing, I thought maybe I did not read it correctly. So I went back and read and searched for those words, and there was nothing. So what dawned on me was that folks who know that there are a bunch of people who are following us, they know that they are just going to listen to my words and trust it, and they're not going to go and do further reading. And so they could just make up things and say them. I have always tried. If I made an error unintentionally or because I was just mistaken in my understanding, that's different. But I have never intentionally tried to put us all in a pigeonhole to say, let me bias them. I haven't done that. And I've gotten appropriately punished for that as well. But that's just how medicine is. Doug Pass says, if D3 supplements, what's seen from German studies, 90 to 100 microgram K27 for every 5,000 IU, avoid calcification and whacked out parathyroid. It is possible. I have to look at the study, but this is true that with the D3 and K2, it is important to keep them together. New York is, are they still masking kids? Why? Correct. Guitar Dog Bear, the criticism of Strawman. And I was shocked that when I was trying to talk about those criticism being wrong, I was labeled immediately as pro-vax. I was actually protecting the authors of this study's message. Maggie Moose says that the healthcare is the last thing that should be corrupted. You are correct. But as you can see, there's a lot of money to be made from it. And that means there is going to be manipulation that would come in. Alquin says, Alquin loves taking sides on an argument. He takes all of the sides. Good. Vanilla Bean says, it's also disturbing how many dogs and professors, etc., who lost it. That's true. So for lupus, they are prescribing hydroxychloroquine. Are there side effects to watch for? The only side effects mostly is around the cardiac outcomes. So two things to watch for. Number one, any vision changes. And number two, any cardiac changes, any palpitations, any blood pressure swings. These are two that are important to look at. Vision changes, for example, after a week or 2 weeks of usage, and I do not know what is the usage, what is the dosage and frequency, but sometimes after a couple of weeks of usage, one might start finding it hard to read the things that they were reading before. Okay. And they might think my eyesight is weak or getting weak. This may actually be related to hydroxy. Skyfrog says taking sides is so three-dimensional. I think in zero dimension, so I get the point. Very good. That is correct. Fear of losing livelihood is a corruptible force. Absolutely. I can tell you that when they just recently took out almost a big part of my business, um, there was a time when I was quite nervous about my livelihood, but I came out of it. Why I came out of it was I am a guy who used to have a broken bicycle and not have money to get it fixed. And from there, I'm here. So we'll find out. Now I'm actually in a better shape than having a broken bicycle. So it'll be okay. That's correct. Most powerful motivation. That is correct. Flowers in her hair says, terrible that they did this to you. Yeah. Skyfrog says, so where is the bicycle? So that bicycle is gone, but I have that figurative bicycle in my head, and I just look at things to say, I could get through that time. So this time would pass. This shall pass as well. Rima says it doesn't change the hideous unfairness of it. That's true. And Rima knows a little more in depth for what happened. Motorcycle now, yes. Or plane. Alexander says, I listened to a very good video on the subject of ears on Dr. Bean website yesterday. Thank you very much. Critical thought says, Skyfrog, he left it at your property on the. Is that, what is that property? Ramnik says in all old times, bicycle was a luxury. I heard too. So it's just that I had a poor state. So at that time, oh, that was moon. Yeah, we'll have to go and check the moon. Lance says, can we ask any question? You can. It's not necessary that I know the answer to every question, but I'll try. Guitar Doc says, broken Lexus. So I have a Mercedes and the other car is a BMW. So maybe broken Mercedes soon after these attacks. Siddhartha is here. Hey Siddhartha, how are you? Rima says, sorry to go on, no worries. And Rima can't wait to scream from the rooftops and show the unethical, ghastly bullying destroying lives. Yeah, there is actually. So Meeple Art says, do we know much about the BA4? So we talked about it that BA4 and 5 are out there as well, but they are not as fast as the BA2 and XE. We'll see. We'll keep looking at them. So far, they didn't seem like taking off very fast. So why not I do this? Somebody had left a comment that why don't you show us why don't you give us a tour of Dr. Bean? So let me give you a quick tour of Dr. Bean. Rima says, does that correct with use? Is it permanent? The eye issue? Yes, it does. It corrects with use. It's not permanent. Or it corrects not with use, it corrects with reducing the dose or frequency. Normally dose reduction. So let me show you Dr. Bean. So here is drbean.com. This, if you click here on the top, video library, this is the video library. And here, if you open up this menu, there are for example, cardiovascular system. And here, this is medicine, this is cardiology webinars, this is pathology of cardiovascular system. You can see me here. EKG interpretation, how to look at EKG, EKG webinars, CVS physiology, embryology. So that is, for example, in the cardiovascular system. Then there is chest X-ray interpretation. That's a great lecture by Dr. Mir Ali Khan. Beautiful lecture. Then we have Dr. Tom King, who is actually producing the dermatology lectures. And here we have Introduction to Dermatology, Eczema, Psoriasis, Acne, Benign Skin Lesions, Non-Melanoma Skin Cancers. Now he's recording melanomas. Then this is the Dr. Pay's package. So this is a compilation of the videos that are interesting for early resident doctors or nurse practitioners or nurses who are just joining. So here, cardiology, EKG, pathophysiology, diabetes, dyslipidemias, clinical ENT, and you can see lots of things. Then ENT, then emergency medicine. So these are great talks. Hyperkalemia, anaphylaxis, airway emergencies, tuberculosis, a diagnosis of pregnancy, and then tetanus and rabies. Then endocrinology, you would see a lot of talks about diabetes and so on. Can you imagine this, that the whole package is just that tiny amount? I know sites where just one video is double the whole price for this access. Then gastroenterology, Dr. Samir Islam is actually a very, very popular gastroenterologist. It is his lectures. Hematology, we have an oncologist, Dr. Tabriz. These are some of his talks and some of mine. Then dyslipidemias. So I used to do a bedtime story series. After COVID, we changed some of my work, but I used to do at night one talk where you will tuck in your bed and you're ready to sleep. And I would talk about some topic like a podcast, and you would be listening to that, and then you'll go to sleep. So these are called bedtime stories. And I'll talk about diabetes or cholesterol and other things. Then diagnosis of diabetes, infectious diseases. It is so funny that for the COVID, we have now about 1,500 talks, but we're not supposed to put them in here. Otherwise, this would be a. Now, this is ICU. So, intensive care unit. So, Dr. Luis Verduzco is actually an intensivist and anesthesiologist. And these are his talks, excellent talks. Then the pulmonology. So you would see many folks in here, and you can see many other, for example, nervous system, as that is my favorite. So this is neurology, these are clinical cases, this is neuropathology, this is neuroanatomy, webinars, embryology and histology. And then ophthalmology, pediatrics, some lectures on pharmacology, some psychiatry, renal, reproductive system, respiratory system. I actually did respiratory system. Sorry. And look at this: pulmonology, webinars, pathology, and physiology. And last but not least, surgery. This is Dr. Hatim Abu Sayed. He is board certified surgeon. He's board certified plastic surgeon. He is an MBA, and he is, I believe, a software engineer as well, and overachiever. And these are his talks. So these are great as well. Actually, there would be acute abdomen somewhere. So these are the ones. Then there are some 3D anatomy as well. So if you go here, these are 3D anatomy. We are actually revamping this part of the site. So it looks a little ugly here because we're working on it. And then if you go to your account, you can actually see this is the last 3 videos that you watched. There are various courses here. If you have any videos, you have made any comments, you can take notes and so on. There is a lots of features that you get for that tiny amount. And then if I can go to, this is the older video page. I'm going there to see something here. That is Dr. Hatim Abu Sayed's here. These are acute abdomen and abdominal surgery related talks. Beautiful talks. So anyways, somebody had said, give us a walkthrough of this. So here we are. Oh, crashed. Every once in a while it can crash as well. Working on it. So for 2 years, I've been focusing on COVID, and this seems like I need to focus here as well. So can you imagine that all of this, plus every new lecture that comes in, every week there is 1 or 2 new lectures from various doctors. That all is included in that little tiny price. Okay, so how are things here? Colombian Bean says, I love the site. Thank you. Is Barbara here? Here, Barbara. So Barbara says I'm moderating remotely the next 3 days from my conference. Super team on site. Barbara, how are you? How is Lotus? There are some reviews as well here. So my team had said, could I ask the KoolBeens to have video reviews that we can put on our site? But I was too shy to ask for it. Skyfrog says, I hope my lifetime subscription lasts a long time. Me, I mean, absolutely. Absolutely, you will. Algebra Bean says, purchased, well worth it. Thank you very much. Siddhartha says, wonderful site. Thank you. Bay Area Aquaria says, Lotus is a lovely name. Yeah, so Barbara's cat's name is Lotus. Lisbeth says, we love the site. Thank you very much. So Lance says, meanwhile, in America, people use baby shampoo in nasal sinuses for sinusitis, and there was a study showing efficacy. Yeah, there was a Malaysian study. Vanilla Bean says, Dr. Bean Medical Lecture is one of the few good things that last in the last 2 years. Thank you. And you are one of the few good things that happened to me. Or actually lots of good things. But last 2 years was a challenge. Nipa, thank you very much. Eid Mubarak to you as well. How are things? How is everything? Um, Barbara says Lotus Muse. So talking about the cats. So we have two cats, correct? We have Luffy and Kyrie. And Luffy is usually out at this time, but comes back about 8 or 9, and then the door closes till the morning. For a few days now, so Kyrie would not go out, even if the door is open. She would just be too scared to go out. And it makes sense. Kyrie was young about 5 years ago, and she was tiny kitten, and she used to love to go out. And we were very protective of them. But one day, uh, the door was open or something happened, and she jumped out and she disappeared. And then she disappeared for a month. Now, how did she survive that month? We don't know. But finally, we got her back, and she was like almost dead, all bones and no meat on her anymore, or no flesh. So since then, she has become very scared of going out. But for last 1 week, Kyrie has been going out as well. She goes out, sits down in the backyard, roams around, then quickly comes back. So that's a new development. M. Gregory says we never hear Luffy anymore because I have come upstairs. So Luffy used to be downstairs where I used to be sitting. Now I'm upstairs. He goes down and goes out. And so he's less intrusive. Colombian Bean says, good night. Cat adventures at the Bean. Yes. This is a good question. Carol, have you seen any complete recoveries yet from 40-year-old females with asthma who had the vaccination before long haul COVID? Um, so there is majority of the patients recover over time, even if they don't take anything. However, there are 3 patients I know right now who, despite every kind of attempt by their doctors and specialists, they're making recovery, but really slowly, and they're frustrated. One patient I know is relapsing. She actually called me a couple of days ago and said, I have relapsed. She's not my patient, but she's a patient of long COVID who's in touch with me. And after 6 months of staying healthy, she relapsed. So, Meeple Art, can you, once I remember you had offered to do some art classes with me. Is it possible that someday you can join us in this discussion that we do over Thursdays and join in the art class? Um, this particular program that I'm using to relay, I can send a link to a person and they can use that link to appear as a guest, as you have seen other guests that appear, and you can then share your screen and uh, teach if you would like. So we need to have Luffy here. Let's see if Luffy is around. If he's around, I'm gonna we are Luffy less. Yes. Uh, let me see if he's around. If he is around, I will fetch him. If he's not around, then I'll come back alone. So I'll be back. So sorry, Luffy's out. He is gone to his office. Sophia says Bean became invisible. Yes. Skyfrog says now we are beanless. Luffy-less and beanless. That's a good one. So Catio is a plan as well. I'm still trying to figure out where to put the Catio. That's a good one. Yeah, this patient had actually stopped everything. If you sneeze after using baby shampoo, do you get baby bubbles? I'm sure. Kelly says, have you talked about relapsing after Paxlovid? No, I have not. Is there some data I can look into that? Yes, we have to get Saraswati. So I'm gonna remind my assistant to reach out to Saraswati. Why have we not reached out to Saraswati? So 1 second. I think it is because I was the one who was in contact with Saraswati and not my assistant. Normally, she is very efficient to connect and figure out a time. Roller says Luffy, yeah, he's out. Roller. Nicolene Elma says, have you seen Dr. Carlo Brogna's first report on detecting in human fecal oral bacteria? Seems certain long COVID cases benefit from antibiotics. So it is possible that the SARS-CoV can be like a can be like a bacteriophage, can enter a bacteria, but I'll have to read up. Yes, M. Gregory, that's correct. Luffy has a life of his own. Luffy is a variant of Luffy, just like FCC to FSC. That's correct. You made a point. So what's behind me? This guy? This guy is a SARS-CoV-2 virus. Here, I bought it when I had COVID. So if you watch some of my videos where I said I have COVID, I had been showing this to say I have COVID. So this is SARS-CoV-2. Yeah, I would check it out. I heard from a couple of folks that there is a discussion about SARS-CoV-2 being a bacteriophage. Sophia says, give that toy to Luffy. Okay. Adi Bean says, that's cute. The little boy is alive and live in you. Absolutely. I have so many toys over here. This whole back thing is also filled with toys. These are really toys that are. I use them to draw. So I look at them from various angles and draw, but I have lots of toys. Okay. So things are falling. Beria says, need my souvenir too. Absolutely. So we are at 8. So let's stop for today. So Kelly says that Bloomberg is reporting US government researchers planning studies on patients rebounding after a 5-day course of Paxlovid. That will be very interesting. Alexander says, one day, sorry, no video today. I've been playing with my toys all day. Actually, I have my toys everywhere. So look at this. This is another tiny little toy. And I have these sets of these toys everywhere. And I just put them. They actually help me with my drawing. So I look at them and I say, all right, from this angle, how would they look? You don't know how much it goes into preparing something for you. It was a very interesting exercise to teach with drawings for 2 years straight or more and draw every day. I just became so rehearsed in drawing. Meanwhile, in America says, I'm so glad to see this. I'm not the only grown up with these toys. Absolutely. So I'll keep showing you more toys. I have a bag of toys here. So when I have to draw something, I can pick up these toys and I can take them out and see which one I want to draw. And I will then put that and I'll draw that. It's actually easier to just set the toys up in a scene and then draw them. Meanwhile, in America, that's great. Thank you. Thank you. Correct. I have honed my skills absolutely. So Tina says, do your toys give you relaxation? So I have never actually played with them. I usually just use them for drawing. So for example, the SARS-CoV-2, I'll put that here in front of me from a side to see if it is doing this or attacking the other thing. That's what I usually do. Okay, to let go says so portraiture. Yes, don't tell the people who come to. Absolutely, they find toys in my office. They are gonna totally cancel me. Right now, I'm half cancelled. Robin says that you're so much better than most motivational speakers. We learn so many different things from you. Thank you very much. Meanwhile, in America says this is great. Yes. So if you watch this video, it's so funny that I do all these things. So there is a video here about, if I go to microbiology, do you know before the pandemic, this is the series I was developing and it just stopped. Here, interesting. I was working on what? Bacteriology. Here. Streptococcus pneumoniae. I believe this is the one. So in the Streptococcus pneumoniae video, if I play it. Guys, this is Dr. Mobeen. Weird bile solid, a bit of stress, absolute login to. This is how my drawings used to be. Okay, so here, this little picture, to draw this, I went out and bought this little toy Jeep from Target. I bought, that little Play-Doh that children play with. I bought a Play-Doh. So with the Play-Doh, I made this Streptococcus pneumoniae. Then I had this Jeep run over it, and I took a picture of that, and then I used that to draw this. And this was a visual hint to remember the management of Streptococcus pneumoniae. So I am known to do these kind of things. So with this, now we can stop. So thank you very much. Please like, subscribe, and share. And if you would like to support this work as well, there are links in the description, a link for Substack, a link for Patreon, a link for PayPal, link for Buy Me a Coffee, and of course, link to Dr. Bean's site. And that price, you would actually be amazed at so much of content, and the price is really nothing. So with this, thank you very much, and I'll see you tomorrow.